Welcome back to Dice to Pixels. We're here with episode 45. We're going to sort of crap on Nintendo for a little bit. So if you want to skip that, timestamps are below. Let's get into it. So, Chad, Nintendo.
So, yeah, the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has released today. To be fair, we haven't played it at all.
Yeah, well, I would go further than that. I don't think any of us have any intention of playing it.
No, not unless someone else buys it for us.
Yeah, well, I'll give it a go because I've made it quite well known that I'm not a fan of Breath of the Wild. I think we've all made it quite well known that we're not big fans of Breath of the Wild. Looking at the footage of this, the trailers, and even some gameplay that we just watched, it's more of the same from the looks of it. To me, it looks like it could have been DLC for Breath of the Wild as opposed to a completely brand new game.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's everything about it looks identical. Yeah. They've added like a couple of mechanics, and otherwise it's the same game.
Yeah,
including soundtrack
and assets.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I think the only way I'd play it is if my buddy Jim, hi Jim, if he lent it to me. But yeah, I didn't have a good time with Breath of the Wild. I felt a lot of the mechanics they introduced to the Zelda series made it something different, and I kind of feel it could have been like a completely different franchise.
And actually, I want to rewind just a little bit here, just to sort of set the stage in case anyone thinks like, oh, these guys just hate Zelda.
No,
I bought the Switch and Breath of the Wild specifically because it was the latest Zelda game. I wanted to love that game. It was unplayable garbage. I played maybe 3 or 4 hours of it and gave up because it was slow. It was crap. The Switch is underpowered for a game like that, and the weapon breaking mechanic just completely blew it.
It seems to always be Nintendo's track record is they always like to underpower their systems when like compared to obviously competitors. I think the GameCube was the last system that actually outpowered like another system because I believe the Xbox at the time was the good one, then the GameCube, and then the PS2.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's because the GameCube came out sort of mid-cycle. Yeah. Like it came out a couple years after the Xbox, so it had the benefit of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that said, and seeing like the tons of perfect scores and for some reason Game Informer giving it a 9.75 out of 10. So, I mean, okay, sure. But
it's better than the 10 out of 10 that everybody else was giving.
So, yeah, with that said, we started having a discussion amongst ourselves and asked, does Nintendo get a free ride because they're Nintendo? Like, when they come out with one of their core franchises, is it instantly a 10 even if the game isn't good?
Yes.
That's what it seems like. Because honestly, like you said, it could be framed like these two Zelda games could be framed as a different franchise. They wouldn't get those scores if it was a different franchise.
Hell no.
I think they would, like, just because it's graphically kind of pretty and I don't know, people like that style of open world and the challenge with it. It'd probably get a decent score.
Yeah, but
it would not be
at that price point. It would get a lot of hate too.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. It is not a AAA game, in my opinion. Like, the last AAA Zelda that I played, and admittedly, I did not play Majora's Mask, and I only played Twilight Princess briefly. But the last one that I would say was, like, definitively a AAA was, like, Ocarina of Time. Because at the time, that game was unique. Like, nobody had really come out for that, not with consoles, at least. There wasn't really much in the way of competition there. So it was groundbreaking. And at that point, I think it's fair to say, like, okay, this was like the perfect game for the system at the time.
But honestly, when I tried Breath of the Wild a few years ago, I was playing it and my thought process through the entire thing was like, this feels like an indie game that's trying to be AAA and not doing it well.
Yeah.
Whereas it could be rather than being like an indie game that just leans into the fact that it's indie and it's like, yeah, we're indie, we're small, we're going to make a game that's appropriate and is still enjoyable for that size. and the budget that we have.
And the price point. So
Yes.
honestly, that's actually probably what pisses me off the most about Tears of the Kingdom. What pisses me off the most is the perfect ratings, because every single one of those journalists that gave it a perfect rating needs to rethink their career, because they shouldn't be journalists or reviewers. But the price point, that's not an $80 game. That's a $20 DLC, like you said.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
$80 for that game.
Yeah.
I compare it to when Capcom remade the Resident Evil 2, and they re-released that on, I believe, last-gen consoles. And it was a great remake. But then they did the same thing with Resident Evil 3, and the game time on that was very, like, you can roll through that in like maybe 3 to 4 hours, like the entire story mode of it. But there was a lot of issues with that, where in Res 2, if you could like dismember enemies and blow up their heads and all that stuff, but in Res 3 you couldn't, the remake. So why that wasn't just DLC for Res 2? It's because they wanted money. That's you know.
And hey, I'm all for companies charging for their work. The problem is that I don't, other than level design and stuff, I don't see any real work that's gone into this game. They're literally reusing assets, both video and audio. They didn't do any fucking work.
Wow.
Well, they did.
They did work.
They did a whole new world, which is great, fine, awesome, like absolutely. But like,
they didn't have to recreate everything all over again.
Yeah, it's $40 down DLC. Like you did half the work of a game. So why is it full price?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about the Zelda series that I admired, is that each entry had its own unique look. So like if you go, like the original Legend of Zelda had that top-down kind of isometric, look. And then with Link, they did the side-scrolling combat. Link to the Past had the upgraded graphics and, again, the traditional top-down Zelda. But then out came Ocarina of Time, when they finally went 3D world. Yep. Majora's Mask, I consider Majora's Mask to be Ocarina DLC, if DLC was available at the time. That is DLC to me.
Yeah, I think that's somewhat fair.
Yeah. And then Wind Waker had an insanely unique visual look that a lot of people were actually pissed off about, but it was a good game. It was a fun game. Mm-hmm. And then, Twilight Princess, they finally went full-blown, like that realistic looking Link, the adult Link that they would always show in tech demos for like the GameCube or the Wii or whatever. And then, you'd never get it. They finally gave you that. But yeah, and like Breath of the Wild had its own unique look as well. So like, this is a bit disappointing. Like, I understand it was a popular entry in the Zelda franchise for most people. I can 100% disagree.
Yeah, and I don't even believe that, to be honest. Like, don't get me wrong, lots of people bought it, lots of people played it and said they loved it, and I'm sure they did. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure they were like, "Yay, it's the new Zelda. We get to play Zelda." But I think it's one of those things where it's like, if that's your only option, it looks real good.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if they had done a real game with some actual effort behind it that didn't just rely on crutches of like your weapons breaking for difficulty, people would have actually loved it. Like we talked about this the other day. Mm-hmm. Skyrim was a good game.
Yes, it still is.
Yeah, people still play Skyrim. People still play vanilla Skyrim, maybe with some graphical tweaks, but that was a good game. That had good mechanics. I mean, Elder Scrolls, pretty much all the Elder Scrolls games have been good, but Breath of the Wild was not. Like, honestly, it wasn't. It had a few interesting gimmicks. I think people really got hooked, because I experienced this a little bit when you like hang glide off of the starting island. I was like, oh, this game's gonna be so fucking good. It was
cool, yeah.
And then I realized that like that's a one-off. You do that once, and then the rest of the game, that thing's like basically a cut rate grappling hook almost. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, thanks for getting my hopes up for a good game here. Mm-hmm. Like, all the enemies were basically identical. It was just wait for them to start their attack, dodge it, and then attack.
And then your weapon breaks, and then hopefully you have a club that will do significantly less damage that will break halfway through.
Exactly.
Again.
Yeah. 3 swings in, your club breaks. But meanwhile, your shoes and armor and stuff never break. Those are perfectly fine. But your weapons break.
That's going in the next one now.
Yeah, probably. Except you'll have to pay 99 cents to repair them.
Oh, Jesus Christ. At least, I think, I could be wrong. I read/heard someplace that the cutscene type thing when you're cooking isn't there anymore. You can turn it off.
Well, that'd be good.
I mean, I'm someone that doesn't mind that stuff terribly because I can sit there with my knitting and just like push the button to make it do it, and I'll do something else. But holy crap, the noises that went with it too were so annoying, and it was just so overly long for it.
So long for something you have to do so often. So long. So anyways, basically Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm sure there's lots of people who are going to say, no, it's a completely different game. They added, weapon fusing. It's like, that's not a different game. That's just like, come on, seriously.
That's Dead Rising, isn't it? Yeah,
Dead Rising. Well, I think in the second one or something.
Well, and a million other crafters, right? It looks, they're reusing the assets. It is so freaking similar to Breath of the Wild that it should not have been a standalone game. And the people who are giving it a 10 out of 10, not only does a 10 out of 10 rating mean that there are no issues with the game whatsoever, there is nothing to dislike about the game, it also means that there is nothing you could possibly think of to improve upon.
Yeah.
That's a 10 out of 10, and this game doesn't even fucking come close.
Yeah.
And for the record, I can't think of a game that does.
No game should, I don't think.
No, I mean, there are probably some like mid 8s out there, probably. 9 maybe.
Yeah.
See, it's weird because everybody's got, I mean, I know we all have our own takes on what a perfect game is. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like, to me, a perfect game is like The Messenger.
No.
For me.
I
feel like when I can play that, I feel that I can start that game and it controls great. The music's amazing. The gameplay's really good. That, like, I consider that like a perfect game. That makes it me.
Good game.
Well, I consider it a perfect game.
No, you don't. I know you don't.
No, I do.
Because you play other games.
Well, yeah, I play other games.
If it was the perfect game, you would never play anything else. That would be the perfect game.
Well,
okay, then I guess that means it never ends. So basically,
well, actually, that was one of the things I was going to bring up, is that any perfect game would require, by definition, that it has essentially an infinite progression system.
Man, we're defining the perfect game would be like a live service.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
like,
my God.
It doesn't exist, right? Like, for starters,
I hope it never does.
Sure. Like, it doesn't exist for starters. But also, like, if you're playing a game at any point, you're like, oh, like, this quest is too long, it's not the perfect fucking game.
Yeah.
9, maybe. 90%, sure, okay. But, like, 10, for all these journalists to be giving this, saying that this is literally the best game that will ever be produced in the modern era.
Yeah.
Is offensively stupid.
to counter your argument with the this quest line is too long.
Sure.
That's very subjective though. And it could be, and it's subjective from gameplay to like game session to game session, because sometimes you're just in the mood of like, yeah, I'm just going with the flow, whatever. Other times you're like, no, I need to finish and focus.
Sure.
So I think so that gets very subjective.
There is a difference, mind you, between reviewing a game for everybody and your personal like perfection game. Like, the closest game I've ever had to a perfect game was Tibia.
Yeah. I
played it for years as it was out of the box, no mods, no nothing.
Yeah.
The introduction to playing was great. The mechanics were great. The infinite progression was there. Quest lines were deep. The world had lots of story. So close to the perfect game. There were like 100 things that I didn't like about it. There's just so many other things that it could have had that it didn't. And that's why, like, even at that, even the best game I've ever played, there's probably a 9.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I still go back and play it sometimes. I've gone to the effort of making my own private server to play it. But it's still not anywhere fucking close to a perfect game. Yeah. So when I see people giving Zelda a perfect game score, it's like, no, fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as an individual giving it a 10 out of 10, saying it's the perfect game, in your opinion, sure, go right ahead. But when you are someone that is influencing and like marketing it, saying that, it's kind of weird to say that at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and even as an individual, I think it's important not to hyperbolize too much when you're talking about games where it's like, it's the perfect game. It's like, so you don't play anything else then? Well, no, I play a lot. Okay, then is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Like if you play nothing but it all of 2023, okay, yeah, that's pretty close to your perfect game.
Yeah.
But if you're like, we talked about this very briefly the other day. It's like the perfect game would have to have like elements of every other game, like, and the point is this doesn't exist. And even if you narrow it to like it's the perfect RPG, it's like no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No.
It's just not.
And it's funny too because I mentioned briefly a while back Nintendo just released the Metroid Prime remaster.
Yeah.
Which Metroid Prime is probably I love that game.
Yeah.
I loved it when it came out in the GameCube. I loved the remaster, and I had one glaring issue with it.
Yep.
That wasn't a deal breaker, but I liked that more than the recent release, than Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which was like a brand new game, and this remaster came out. I felt that was better than Dread was, because Dread, I played it once and I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm good. I got 100% everything. I'm good. Whereas Metroid Prime, I'll go back and I'll replay it again because it was fun. I loved playing it. I loved it going through the world, even though I have everything up in my brain now and I can just fly through it. I still really enjoy playing it.
Yeah.
So
well, and the number of times that you've replayed Mega Man and all of those old games too, like those obviously are for you like close to perfect games too. If not, well, like they're
fun.
Yeah, they're rated high for you.
Yeah. Like I think it's so. There's a few things to sort of consider. Like first of all, graphics is nebulous because graphics will always improve over time, and like the size of the world and everything. Like GTA 3 has a smaller map than GTA 5. Duh.
Yeah.
So like
What?
So like things like that is like you don't obviously factor those into rating in a game. It's like based on the current technology, right? So something that's 10 years old, if you still want to go back and play a 10-year-old game, that's a good sign that it's high on your list. And so that's a great place to start. Is like, does this have staying power? Does it have replayability? And I gotta say, Zelda, even Ocarina of Time, which in my opinion was the best Zelda, its replayability was pretty fucking low.
Yeah.
I mean, once you beat it, like I wouldn't start a new save.
Mm-hmm.
I might continue dicking around in my current save, but I wouldn't restart.
No.
See, that's one of those things where to me, finishing like a Zelda game is like getting all the heart containers, getting all of the upgrades, everything, and
that's
then
what I
like
mean.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was pieces that if I got to the end and like shit, I'm missing like 3 heart container pieces and something else, then well, all right, let's go dick around and try to find it.
Yeah.
So,
but I wouldn't restart my save.
No.
Yeah. Whereas there's lots of games where I do restart and play a new save because I'm like, you know what, I want to try things a little. And actually, this is one of the reasons why Zelda is not that good as a franchise. Is it's all just super linear.
Yeah.
Like even though you can like go to different places at different times, it's like there's no classing, there's no skilling,
exactly.
there's none of that. Like there's no benefit to restarting and trying something new.
Yeah, like with something like Skyrim or even World of Warcraft, or I think you said even with Tibia.
Tibia was big for that.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 14, like anything like that, you can dip in and out of that and try different things, play different ways, but it bugs the shit out of me when games get wildly like I'll say right now, I don't think any Zelda game ever in my opinion has been over a 7. They're cool, they're fun for within the Nintendo ecosystem.
they've been some of the best games, but I also consider, with a few exceptions, for like super fun games, like the first Mario Party was like an absolute gem.
Yeah.
I might give it higher, but like most Nintendo games don't realistically peak about a 7 or an 8 because it's a cut rate system.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Every Nintendo system in the last, well, I don't know what, 15 years has been a cut rate system. It's been cheap. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But it also means that you're not getting the best that you can.
Yeah.
Graphically,
Yeah.
Graphically, world size, you know, we saw it when we were watching the live stream of Tears of the Kingdom, and it's the same thing that they did with Breath of the Wild, because it's the same engine. When you hit something, it freezes. Yeah. And I know that's a stylistic choice, but I'm willing to bet it's a stylistic choice to mask the fact that it doesn't have the power to do the effects. So it has to like give it a chance to catch up.
Well, considering one of the selling features for the Switch when it first came out was the fact that you could play Skyrim and Witcher 3 on it. Like, how old are those games? Yeah.
I don't even know if they run very well on it.
Which is
I have
even
no
worse.
idea. Because there's been a few times where I've got Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night.
Yeah.
When that first came out, it's a game that was kickstarted and made by the guy that produced Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So he kickstarted this new, basically it's the spiritual successor to Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
And I got it on PS5 and beauty. Just fucking amazing. It's the same on the Series X. It runs great. So it was on sale on the Switch. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll grab it. And it runs like shit.
Yeah.
Just absolute freaking garbage.
And it doesn't seem like it's that super demanding of a game either.
No.
So that's actually something that's interesting, because it used to be back in the early Nintendo days. And this is kind of true for most consoles. Like back in the Game Boy days, NES days, there weren't really games that didn't run well. Because you just made sure it ran well. These days you get all kinds of things that just don't really perform very well.
I remember back the NES, whenever you get slowdown, it's because there was too much going on the screen. So
there were a few like bullet hell games that
I remember Mega Man 3. There's one area in Top Man stage where there's these big like tower enemies that are kind of trucking along on the bottom, and there's a ledge where there's like an energy tank, but when you jump up there, another one appears, and the second that one appears, everything just goes like and slows down because there's just too much happening, right? So technical limitations at the time.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think we're all, I'm obviously the most angry about this whole, it actually pisses me off, because it means that I can't trust any of those journalists to give me a review. Not that I trusted them before. They've done this shit for years, but when somebody gives a Zelda game like Tears of the Kingdom a 10 out of 10, it's like, well, great. I literally can't trust a goddamn thing you say for the rest of your existence, because that's not a perfect game. That's not even in the neighborhood of a perfect game.
It's and I feel like other games have done it better, honestly.
They absolutely have.
We were talking about too Zelda like games, and I brought up the original Darksiders, which it was basically Zelda. It's a Zelda game to and through, where you go do dungeons, you find a specific weapon in that dungeon that helps you fight the boss and unlocks and allows you to move further on in the game and whatever. And it was a more mature rated, Joe Mad, he helped create the game, did a lot of the visual art for it, and it was fun. It had a good story to it, and it was a fun game, and it had like multiple combat issues. You could use like your sword, you could use a scythe, you could use like gauntlets to beat the shit out of things. So I mean, the number of different weapons and armors in Zelda games has always been super minimal. The crafting where it exists has been incredibly minimal. And like, there are people who are going to argue that massively restricting the number of things in a game makes it better. Not in a fucking open world game, it doesn't. Like, those two are antithetical to each other. They don't. You can't have an open world game that is truly good that has like a dozen weapons. Doesn't exist. Can't exist. So I don't know, but I'm actually curious
I want you to tell me more about Messenger, because although I don't believe it's a perfect game, even for you, I am very curious that you think it's the best game. Like, would you say it's the best game you've ever played?
It's up there.
Yeah,
I'd put it in,
because I haven't played it, and I'm actually curious.
It's by Sabotage Studios. They're a development group that based here in Canada, in Montreal.
Yeah.
And it came out in, I think, 2017 or 2018. It initially, looking at it, my first thought was, this kind of looks like Ninja Gaiden.
Okay.
Just gameplay wise, right? And then I watched a live streamer play through it, and just the music, the way the gameplay looked, it had this effect where it starts and it looks like an 8-bit game, but then at one point, to show that you've gone to the future, it upscales to like a 16-bit. But then it happens seamlessly. Like, there's these little portals that you walk through, and it'll go from like an 8-bit to 16-bit like instantly, and the music will change, everything to upscale or downscale it.
That's pretty fun. Yeah, I see that. I'm actually watching some of the Steam stuff right now.
So I ended up buying it. I can't remember on what.
Everything at this point.
Yeah, I have literally bought
has it on everything.
I bought it. I think I bought it on PS4 first.
Yep.
Then I bought it on the Switch just to have it on the go.
Yeah.
I bought it on Steam, and then when the Series X, I bought it on the Series X just to play through it again. Yeah, it's great. So
does it run well on the Steam Deck?
Yeah. Great. It runs
because you said
amazing on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. Like, so the writing in it's witty. Like, there's.
It looks great. Yeah, I'm watching this video of it right now. It looks great.
It tells it's a really cool story that it tells. But some of the best interactions are when you go to the shopkeeper, and you ask him to just tell me a story. And some of the stuff that he tells you is like really, really cool, and just little facts. I can't really think of them off the top of my head, but it's funny. Like, the writing is really, really witty and funny. The gameplay is great. The boss encounters are really, really memorable. They're very fun. There's one where you fight a group of brothers at the top of a volcano.
Okay.
And the one guy does nothing but upper body workouts, and he's like super huge from the waist up, while the other one does nothing but leg works out. So his legs are like amazing, but he's got like a big boiler because he's a bigger fella.
Love it.
And they're waiting for this stew to broil so they could like carry on with their day. And you have to get to this like icy mountain peak, but they're in your way. So they're testing you as the messenger. So you fight the both of them at the same time, but it's more like they're tagging in and out. So as you do enough damage to one, the other one will come in. And
yeah. I feel like there was a good classic. I almost feel like there was a Ninja Turtles fight like that. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, there was. I just can't think of the one.
Yeah. No,
so but yeah, it's really fun. It was really, really cool. I loved it. It's one of those games where I remember I recommended it to my buddy Jim, and I told him, like, dude, you have to play this game. Like, this will bring back all the feels that we had when we were like young growing up playing NES, Super NES games. It is amazing. It is like in my top 5. And he bought it and he loved it.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm looking at it now, and it definitely looks like something I would thoroughly enjoy too.
Oh, it's so fun.
I think I'm gonna grab it for the Steam Deck, because I've actually been looking for some new stuff to play on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, it is really, really fun. I cannot recommend it enough to people. If you haven't played it, do yourself a favor and go give it a go. It's super, super fun. Each level, like just the music alone. Yeah. I'll literally be just humming. I brought up before like Mega Man music, how like every so often it'd be like the Messenger's the same. Excuse me, the Messenger's the same thing. Like the music is so good. Like when you're going through levels and it's like
now we're gonna get struck.
Yeah, probably. But no, it's really good, and
it looks really good.
So the next game they're working on is called Sea of Stars. Okay. And it takes place in the same universe, but the Messenger is like basically the end of the world for this universe. Sea of Stars takes place beforehand. Okay. And there's actually there's a level in the Messenger that kind of, from what I've seen early of Sea of Stars, and there's a demo for Sea of Stars as well on the Nintendo Switch that you can play. You can pick between two heroes, either one that follows the sun god or one that follows the lunar god. Mm-hmm. And you actually explore that temple in the Messenger to find a story item. So it's great. Like, yeah, Messenger is easily in my top 5.
Yeah, I'm going to grab it. It looks super good. I mean, I could definitely believe that it's one of the better ones in the genre. I agree that the switching between time zones looks like it's a pretty cool mechanic. They've got some examples of that.
And it
looks pretty fun.
It changes levels. Like, so
yeah.
if you're in one area and there's a wall, when you go through and you either go forward or backwards, the wall will like disappear and you can like go and explore a different part. Whereas if in the 8-bit area, you would like come up and then go up and this.
Yeah.
In the 16-bit, you'd come over, but then you're going down and, you know.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It does look super cool.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to play it.
Hell yeah.
This looks right up my alley. I'm always curious when people tell me it's something's like their favorite game, because I'm like, oh, okay, well, now I need to check it out.
I want to stream it. I've been wanting to stream it for so long, just do a playthrough of it and maybe do some stupid voices to like the dialogue and stuff. But
yeah. It's
just, God, I love it so much, man.
It does look pretty fun, yeah. I was just looking at so you should speed run it, because then it won't take very long. Apparently the 8-bit speed run record is 29 minutes and 45 seconds.
I think I can do that.
Well, probably not quite that.
Well, there was the 8-bit section?
Yeah.
So this is the thing with the Messenger.
The only reason I say probably not quite that is because that's the number one in the world right now.
But this is the thing with the Messenger. When you first start playing it, it's basically feels like level structured. So like you go through each area and it feels like a different level. When you get to the middle of the game and you fight what you think is the end boss, and they finally do that first transition to the 16-bit, then it like opens up.
Yeah.
So you can just go wherever the hell you want to explore and find all these story items, which some people kind of shit on, but I thought it was great. I thought it just added so much freaking fun and playability to it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can go back and I'll probably end up fucking playing it this weekend now.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good example of a game that has replay value. That doesn't require like classing or skilling up or anything necessarily. It's just like, I'll replay that because that part of the level was fun, right? Like,
it's got like the boss fights they have patterns that you can learn.
Sure.
So that was like one of the big things is you get to some bosses and you're like, fuck. It's like, okay, when it does this, it's going to do this, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Which really brought back a lot of old school kind of thinking with, gaming in general for me.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll definitely check it out. It looks like a lot of fun. But yeah, a game like this is actually a good example of replayability. Doesn't require like super different choices along the way. It can just be because the game is fun. Mm-hmm. And while I don't doubt that there are people that have replayed Zelda games many times,
I have.
Well, but which ones?
All of them except for Breath of the Wild.
What are we talking about many times here? Have you really played like?
Oh yeah, I've played. So I played Link to the Past several times.
Okay, Link to the Past is I've played that multiple times.
The original Zelda I played multiple times.
Yeah, it's also fantastic.
Link I didn't really. I think I played Link twice because I wasn't a fan of the 2D side scrolling combat of the Adventures of Link.
I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't. Ocarina I played a few times.
I played it twice.
Wind Waker I played quite a fair bit because the combat in that was just like it was so tight. It was really, really good.
I never played it.
Yeah, it was. See, Wind Waker is one of the Zelda games that I think got the most shit before a lot of before like the Breath of the Wild change, because of the artistic choice, but also because you're basically the whole world is like water more or less.
Yeah,
and you're in a boat a lot of the time, which I actually thought was kind of cool. Like you're still exploring, you're opening up the map.
Phantom Hourglass is like that too, where a lot of it's in the boat.
Yeah, like sunken treasures and all that stuff. And
worth noting, critics loved it. They gave it a 96 out of 100.
Oh, good.
So it was only people that didn't like it.
Yeah.
Although, given that they gave Tears of the Kingdom 100,
people are weird.
Yeah.
Also, critics are weird.
Actually, I'm curious. I didn't look this up before we started recording, but I'm actually.
But then also Twilight Princess, which is probably one of my favorite Zelda games. I played multiple times on the GameCube version. And then when the Wii version came out, they did this little trick where they mirrored the world. So if you played it on the GameCube version, everything went from left to right. But if you went on the Wii version, they basically flipped it so that it would be right to left.
Mm-hmm.
It was really different. But yeah, I played them multiple times.
Yeah,
just because I enjoyed it.
I was just looking at the Zelda scores on Metacritic in general, and actually, so it's interesting. So Skyward Sword, which I didn't even remember existing,
that came out after Twilight Princess for the Wii U, and it was one of the. It was one of they just did a remaster.
It's the lowest rated one.
Mm-hmm. They just did it because they basically made you do like motion combat, which kind of sucks in a Zelda game.
Right.
To have to do like the motion stuff. It sucked in Twilight Princess, but you get used to it.
Yeah.
They just did a remaster of that one where they added like you could use like a controller.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's one of the shittier Zelda games.
Yeah. I'm interested. So the scores that I've got pulled up here are so Breath of the Wild Metascore was 97, user score was 87.
Mm-hmm.
The Skyward Sword was 81 critic, 72 user. So we're like, critics are like 10 points above right now.
Yeah.
Link's Awakening, they gave it an 87, but users gave it an 84.
That's the remake.
That's the remake, yes.
That's the remake of
I like the remake. Granted, that was the first time I ever played that one too.
I like that one
I like
too.
both.
Yeah.
I like their graphical choice in the Link's Awakening remake.
Sure.
Everything looked like they look like little play school kind of toys.
Yeah, well, and they didn't screw up the game.
The game felt like a Zelda game.
It was fun.
Yep.
And then so Ocarina of Time got a Metascore of 99, which not really, but user score there was 91. So it's actually the most highly rated of the user scores, which doesn't surprise me really at all, because in my opinion, it was pretty easily the best of the Zeldas.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, though, Elder Scrolls, Skyrim got an 84 Metascore and an 83 user score, and Morrowind got an 89 Metascore and an 88 user score, which means that, yes, critics are inflating Zelda scores by about 10 points because they're being bribed by Nintendo. I'm not. That is not a fact. I'm not saying that. I think there's a possibility.
What about Mario games?
Oh, Mario will be nonsense.
I know Odyssey had a 97 Metacritic.
Yeah.
Yeah, 97. Super Mario Galaxy.
But what was the user?
The user was doing this live. 8.9.
Yeah. So again, 10 point, almost 10 point inflation.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not either.
Super Mario Galaxy had a 97 meta. The user was a 9.1.
Yeah, which is still a pretty big difference, but not as big.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little lower.
Super Mario 64. Roughly the same, 94.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And you see that. The ones that were truly good, the scores aren't that different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think what's really happening, I was joking when I said bribes were being, because Nintendo doesn't need to bribe anyone. The reality is that they're basically intimidating them, because I know if you're critical of Nintendo games, they basically blacklist you.
Yeah, we sure as shit ain't gonna be getting any.
No,
and I don't care.
I don't either.
So I think that's part of it, is like the companies that are dicks who will like blacklist you if you're mean about their games. Critics inflate the score
so that they keep getting
getting favored, and like it's very notable. Like I said, like the Elder Scrolls, almost identical between Metacritic scores and the user score, like within a point on multiple across multiple games. But Nintendo games, wildly different.
Yeah.
So both their prices and their scores are inflated.
Inflated, yeah.
And it's funny because I've heard of Sony doing that as well too.
Yeah.
There's one channel that I follow that they've been, I'm not going to say who, but they've been very critical of Sony first party games and how they all seem to be like basically structured the same, like open world stealth crafting, blah, 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 blah. And they've shit on quite a few of them. And they've flat out said in one of their videos that Sony won't give them early review copies because they don't want that kind of coverage.
Yep. Yeah.
So
yeah, and so I mean, well, we talked about this too. It's actually interesting to me because like at some point we will actually do proper reviews of games. Hopefully, if the channel grows, if people can tolerate me hating on Nintendo aggressively. But if we do that, like we talked about this a little bit, and I think we're all of the same opinion. Like, it doesn't matter if you get pre-release copies, because if you're buying a game day one, like if you're pre-ordering it or buying it at release, the reviews are not going to change your mind.
No.
If you're going into a game being like, oh, I'm buying this game day one, I think most people watch reviews to like get their fix before they get the game. It's like, cool, but that's not useful. So I don't really care if we piss off studios, and like even if we have 1 million subs and we're pissing off studios, I don't care. I'll buy it. We'll buy it retail.
Yeah.
And we'll release the review a day or two after it comes out, because that's when like most people who are buying games based on reviews, they're not buying it for the first week.
Nope.
They're buying it. They're waiting to see if people have massive issues. And more people are doing that now with all of the games that have like run like crap on certain systems. They're like, I'm gonna give it a week and see.
Chad's had to learn that the hard way.
I've been burned quite a few times with some releases. I can't remember what.
Well, did you get
Biomutant?
Oh, Biomutant pissed me off.
Did you get hit with Cyberpunk or?
No, I didn't because
I remember, sorry.
We obviously, like, our PC wasn't able to run it.
Right.
So I didn't. I waited, and then when the next gen version came out, finally released on PS5,
right,
I bought it then, but it was only like $29. But I didn't really like it. I wasn't very big into Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I mean, I never played it. Well, that's not true. I played it briefly, but I never bought it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm sure it was good. I'm sure I would have enjoyed it, but
oh yeah.
It's hard for me to get into open worlders that aren't like an Elder Scrolls or a GTA, because I'm like, I know I'm going to enjoy GTA 6.
Oh yeah. Same.
I know I'm going to enjoy the next major Elder Scrolls.
Yep. Because
they haven't gone wrong since I started playing them. They've all been good.
They'll be buggy as fuck at launch.
Sure. Sure. But like, I know I will like those games. So if I'm going to set aside $80 to buy, or $100 to buy an open world game when it's new, it's going to be one of those, simply because even if there might be one that conceivably is better, I know I'm not going to be disappointed with a GTA 5. I know it's going to be at least an 8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because it has to be. It always has been. They haven't fucked up yet, and I don't think they're going to start.
No.
Even with Diablo 4, I mean, we've been pretty critical with like some of the betas that we played and just our thoughts on it. But I know you pre-ordered it. We pre-ordered it.
Yep.
And I mean, it's Diablo. It's going to be fun to play with a group of friends.
Well, Diablo is actually a good analogy to the Zelda stuff, because I actually feel similar about Diablo 4 as I do about stuff like Zelda. Like, except that Zelda I'm not actually willing to buy. I know Diablo 4 is not going to be that good a game. As much as all the rabid fans are like, it's going to be the best game ever. It's like, no, it's not. I've played it. It's fine. It's better than Diablo 3 in some ways, and worse in a bunch of others. And that's fine, because at the end of the day, Diablo was never a great, well, it was a fun game, but it was never a great game. It's a spammy click fest that's actually kind of a terrible game, but somehow is just disgustingly addictive, and fantastic couch co-op. So I know Diablo 4 is going to be that. I don't think it's going to be a great game, but I didn't need it to be a great game. I needed it to be a Diablo 3 successor.
Yep.
And on that note, it got it.
Yep.
And I think the same is true for Zelda. Like, I don't expect them to come out with another Ocarina of Time, because when that came out, just the idea of an open world 3D game was still, I don't know, I don't think it was the first, but it was one of the first that people knew about. Mm-hmm. So of course it was a home run. Now it's like, well, you got to compete with some heavy fucking hitters.
I fully expect, and I'm surprised it hasn't been done yet, and I mentioned this briefly.
Oh, yeah.
I fully expect Nintendo to announce an Ocarina of Time remake / remaster.
Here's the thing. They basically did a Breath of the Wild remake with Tears of the Kingdom. Like, it's almost the same game. Why didn't they just take that time to remake Ocarina of Time?
Yeah.
You could have used the same system, use the same engine, use the same assets. I don't care. Just remake Ocarina of Time instead of Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. I can.
They would have sold just as many fucking copies.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe
I just
Probably
have that,
more.
like, even like Super Mario 64. I know like the graphical style has its like appeal and stuff, but I'm honestly surprised that in this world of remakes and remasters and fucking if Resident Evil 4, which still looked great back on the GameCube, got a fucking remake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, the question is, when was it released? It was released 1998. They might be waiting for the 20 year. They might do it in
the 20 years
or 30 year. Oh my God.
I was like, wait, what?
Oh my God.
But that's what I mean. Like, I mean,
they might do 25 year.
But that's what I would do.
This
like,
year.
I would 100% do that.
Why didn't they do it this year then? Oh my God.
Because apparently either they thought about it too late or they're just dumb. But
They are just.
Well, I mean, they like if Metroid Prime got a remaster, right? And that was probably for the 3D Metroid Primes. That's probably like the best one is Metroid Prime. So just how much renown and people have for like Ocarina of Time, to take that game and give it a graphical upgrade while not fucking with the overall gameplay of it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like improve upon it, sure. Like make certain things better. Use your motion controls for like the targeting of your fucking bow and arrow or some shit like that or whatever.
Maybe.
But like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
there. Like it would, people will buy it.
They should have just, and in fairness, it was released in November 21st, 1998. So they still have time to do a 25 year. But
Maybe
seriously,
they're going to announce it this summer at the Summer Game Fest.
honestly, I think if they had announced that, people would have shit on them so hard because it would have been like, "Where's Breath of the Wild 2?"
Oh, don't announce it. Just do it.
True. Yeah.
That's what they did. What they did with the Metroid Prime remaster. They announced it and it released the same fucking day.
Yeah, no, the lesson that I've seen from remakes in general, don't announce them because people will A, get their hopes up for something that it isn't, and B, they'll shit on it just for the sake of shitting on it.
Mm-hmm.
Just release it. Something like Ocarina of Time, a remake of that, it doesn't need a lead up. It doesn't need a hype cycle. It will have its own hype cycle.
Yeah.
Just release it.
The fact that
maybe they will.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should have just built it in just use the same engine. It's fine. The engine works perfectly well. I wouldn't mind if they had reused assets for that. I would have been like, cool, no problem. Reusing them for Tears of the Kingdom just seems cheap to me.
Well, they still have a few months, like you said.
Hopefully they will. Although at that point they'd have to, because having 3 games that all look identical would be a little. Not that they won't do it, just that.
Everyone does that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Everything modern. Yeah. Everything looks all the
Yeah,
fucking same.
There's some of that. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Ghost of Tsushima had a nice little unique look to it.
Yeah, but
there's
there was also not sequels to that.
But
one.
how many
No.
things look almost the same as RimWorld? Like,
Yeah.
and how many things does RimWorld look almost the same as?
God, that's such a bad name for a game.
That is a weird name for the game. Yeah, I mean, I get the idea behind it, but it's
Toilets are assholes.
yeah, it's Rim Job World.
So shifting gears.
Okay.
What have we all been playing? Yeah. Well, first, happy birthday to Sarah.
Happy birthday, Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah's birthday was on the day of filming, which would be yesterday.
I was gonna say I meant to start with that because I specifically didn't say happy birthday when you walked in because I was gonna say it, but then I got angry at Nintendo.
That's fair. That's fair.
So happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank y'all.
Yeah, drop a happy B-Day in the comments.
So what have we been playing this week? Other than Everspace 2 very poorly on Wednesday.
Well, actually, I was gonna mention that Everspace 2 because we talked about it very briefly on the Wednesday, the live stream.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we're live streaming Wednesdays on Twitch. If you are interested, 7:30 Eastern on Twitch. We've been live streaming just stuff. I think next week we might do some retro gaming. We'll see.
Yep.
Everspace 2 I've played a little bit, and it's pretty disappointing. I thought the boss fight was going to be fun, and then when we got to a boss fight, it was over in like 20 seconds. Yeah. It was pretty dull.
Yeah, so. You barely took any damage from it, and you were already pretty damaged.
I was, like it should have killed me by all rights, and
nope.
Yeah, disappointing. I started playing Soccer Story. Sarah got me from our Game Pass roulette the week before. Sarah was playing it, so I love that retro graphical style. There's just something about it that just kind of hits the heart, for me. So I've been playing that. That's been pretty fun. I'm still working on Octopath Traveler 2 on the Steam Deck, which again, the first one I really enjoyed. Good old JRPG. And then there's a bunch of other. I just played Ravenlock, which released on Game Pass last week. It's by a Canadian developer, Coco Cucumber, based in Toronto. I played through that. It was a pretty fun game, but really easy, because your attack speed, the second you start hitting an enemy, that's it.
They're just like always stun locked.
Yeah, you just keep on going until they're dead. The boss fights were okay. I mean, you had to kind of strategize, but the camera system sucks. It doesn't have a full 3D camera. You can only turn it a little this way or a little that way. So if the enemy gets behind you, the boss gets behind you, you can't kind of turn the camera so that you're facing it again. You have to wait for it to come around again and then get reoriented on the camera. It's very annoying.
Yeah,
but
that's dumb.
It was a fun game. I beat it in a day. If you have Game Pass, give it a check out. It's pretty cool. I didn't mind it. So
yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What about you, Sarah?
I've been creating a character on Ignite Roleplay.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that on stream.
Yes.
We mentioned go ahead.
Yeah. I was approved and whitelisted to play on Ignite Role-playing for GTA 5. So if anyone watches that at all, I will eventually be streaming once we finish the last finishing touches on our streaming setup at home.
1985.
It's 1985.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it because I actually have been meaning to watch some GTRP anyways because you guys are super into it. Now, so I figured this will be a perfect introduction.
Yep.
There's been a lot of No Pixel streamers that have gone to, well, No Pixels has had some issues, big issues right now. And a lot of the big streamers that were on that have been going to Ignite. And it's basically a 1985 version of GTA 5.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool to watch. Like they've all created new characters. Some of them have been really, really great. Yeah, it's crazy fun. I'm looking forward to seeing Sarah.
I think it's been really good for a lot of the streamers too, because they kind of been playing the same characters and No Pixel for so long that they've just kind of settled into it, and there was the role play wasn't as exciting for them anymore, so they've done a lot of crazy stuff. But I'll be playing a 65-year-old woman named Eunice Croft. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and we're gonna at some point we're gonna see if my my 2080 will go in your machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you guys are still limping with something older than that.
Yeah,
so, I think it's like a 1070.
Something like that. Yeah, we're gonna see if we can give you a little graphics boost too. But yeah, no, that's super exciting. That'll be really fun. We'll obviously keep things up to date on the Discord when that's happening and everything. And you should definitely check it out. Still haven't quite. I think you're going to be streaming on your channel, and then we'll probably host it.
Yeah.
I think is probably what will happen. Yeah, so we'll keep you posted on Discord what's happening with that. And I mean we're at time here. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about real quick? New website I'm working on.
Yes.
May or may not still be live at beta.dicetopixels.com for anyone who wants to take an early look. If you've made it this far in the podcast, you probably will actually care enough to look.
Yep.
We're gonna hopefully the website's gonna start being a little bit more serious endeavor in the near future.
Yep.
So we'll keep you posted on that as well.
and give us a comment down there what you think your favorite Zelda game is. If you've played Tears of the Kingdom, tell us what you think of it.
As usual, tell me how much of an asshole I am.
Yeah, absolutely. We welcome all those kind of comments. Just have fun. Enjoy your gaming week. We're going to go have some birthday dinners and birthday cakes for birthday Sarah here. And we'll see you all next week.
As opposed to not birthday Sarah.
Not birthday Sarah, yeah.
All right, awesome.
Have a good week, folks.